All right, well, welcome, everybody. I'm very excited. It's going to be my second opportunity to host a Hotel Business Hot Topics, and this one is going to be on The Time Is Now, preparing your business for 2023. Of course, we'll get to our panelists in just one second, but why am I here? Who am I? My name is Glenn Hausman. Of course, I do the No Vacancy Live podcast, No Vacancy News Today, and of course, my favorite show, Friday Night Audit, where we drink, have cocktails, make fun of each other, all of that kind of stuff. You can catch that on Friday nights. And yes, we may have damaged a few careers along the way, but nothing that they couldn't handle or didn't expect. So 2022 has been a really interesting year. A lot of changes have been afoot, and I got to tell you all that over the last couple of years, the one theme that I saw is its chance to reset everything, rethink that conventional thinking, take what you've always been taking for granted and had the chance to redo that, hit that giant reset button and start over. And with all the different issues that we're facing today, it's a better time than ever to rethink absolutely every part of our business. So again, today's the times now, so prepare for your business for 2023. And inflation, labor shortages, supply chain issues, they're all expected to create margin pressure and more headaches for hoteliers out there well into 2023 and beyond. And succeeding ahead in the year that's coming is going to take a lot of understanding of the trends, right? Being prepared and partnering with the right folks out there that are going to help fuel that growth instead of getting you mired in a quagmire of complications. So I've got great industry leaders here who are going to discuss that trends that are going to impact the stuff in 2023. Some stuff you may be thinking you're aware of, other things you might not have any clue. We're talking about how to increase that hotel occupancy and guest satisfaction while maintaining those ever-tightening margins. Why group purchasing organizations can help you stay on top of the trend and improve your bottom line. That is, if you listen to them, and how current economic impacts are going to affect your decisions that you're making out there, and share some best practices and hopefully some more. We've got a great panel today. I'm super excited to be working with all of you folks today. Leading it off, we have Damian Calderini. Of course, he's the president and CEO of Integra Procurement Services. We got Vineet Nayar, president and COO of GF Hotels and Resorts. Wonderful JP Ford, SVP Director of Global Business Development with Lodging Econometrics. Mr. Dennis Klurfeld, VP of Procurement, North and Central America with Accor. And of course, friend of ours, Rob Smith, Divisional President, Full Service at Aimbridge Hospitality. Gentlemen, it is so great to see you today. Thanks so much for joining. I hope you're doing well today. All right, so I'm going to go over the format real quick. This is a 1-hour session, and I want all of you folks out there in the audience, you can participate. You can ask questions. Of course, if you've seen me on stage, if you listen to my podcast, you know I have a difficulty keeping quiet. But I want to hear from you. What I have to say is fine, but what you out there is going to say is better. So type your questions in that Q&A box, and I will try to get to as many of those questions as possible. Plus, we'll be covering this hot topic sessions in an upcoming issue of Hotel Business on hotelbusiness.com, as well as social media, LinkedIn, Twitter. And of course, this session is going to be recorded and available online. I want to take a big thank you to Integra for sponsoring this. I really appreciate you giving us all an opportunity to share today, Damian. And I guess as the big sponsor, you get the first question. All right, over there. So Damian, looking ahead to 2023, the big issue that's on everybody's mind is inflation. Where do you see that going? You got to put on your prognosticator's hat for this one, but don't worry, no one's going to remember what you said a year from now. So feel free to say anything.
Well, I'm concerned, Glenn, because you just said this was recorded. So even if people can't remember,
that's a good point.
We'll go back to the recording. No, listen, it's of course no one can predict the future, but we really believe that inflation is here to stay. Mm-hmm. Inflation is global. It's driven today by factors that will not go away overnight. And quite candidly, in conversations just a couple of days ago, people were wondering whether the election might have an impact on it one way or the other. And I will tell you that we don't believe that will be the case. The ongoing issues are, of course, war in Ukraine, which everybody understands the impacts that it has on the grains out there that are not being transported. Labor issues that we talked about, whether it's, just simply not finding truck drivers to be able to move the goods, or whether it is in hospitality, back of the house, front of the house, there's issues everywhere. Everyone talks about the soaring, energy costs, again, impacted by war in Ukraine and other geopolitical challenges everywhere. But to be perfectly candid with you, the two things that I'm most concerned about are the weather. The weather, the biggest impact to the supply chain challenges and the food challenges we're seeing today is actually the weather that we've had, the drought, and the crops have been really bad. And quite frankly, we should all look at the weather, how the weather is going to be in early 2023, and hope that we get the rain and we get the water and we get the weather that we need, because that is going to be the main driver. And the second one is avian flu. When you look about what's going on, typically everyone on this call probably understands every year you see avian flu, spiking once. What we're seeing this year, it's coming, it's going, but it's coming back, and it keeps coming back. And so that's going to have a significant
impact. I don't know, Damien. I don't think there could ever be any sort of virus that could cause a global catastrophe. So I don't know what you're talking about over there. But yeah, I think you make some really, really good points out there. And that inflation is a problem, and it's been around for a while. Vineet, let me throw this over to you, because I've been talking to folks in your positions whenever I'm at conferences, whenever I'm on air, whenever I'm on stage. And for the last year and a half, they've been talking about the pricing pressure that they're having, that the margins have been shrinking. But that was a year and a half ago. Those issues seem to be a lot more problematic now. So how are you trying to maintain margins in this crazy environment right now, where something that costs $1 this month might cost twice as much in 2 or 3 months from now?
Yeah, listen, whatever Damien said, just throw it out the window. I'm just kidding.
Thanks.
I'd like to thank Integra for sponsoring this session.
Thank you very much.
So I think the biggest thing, that we all are dealing with is the uncertainty. I think there's a lot of uncertainty out there. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. Right. What we can control ourselves is being proactive, being efficient. Employees are the most important asset that we have. And I think, that's what we need to train and cross-train and see where that goes. I think that's the biggest thing here. I mean, what's going to happen tomorrow? I mean, 2 years ago, we were talking about isolation, from isolation, now we're talking about inflation. So it's margins are going to be tough. And in our business, every single day with labor increases and the lack of availability for expenses, you're paying more and you're getting less. I think it's going to be an issue going forward. No question about it.
So, Rob, how do we get ourselves to a place of, balance, right? How do we bring balance to the force over here?
Glenn, I think, I felt a lot better about 2023 before I heard Damien open there.
Right.
He scared me, but I think balance, we've learned balance over the last 2.5 years. Balance is a daily thing. The balance is reacting and continuing to make sure that we're seeing, what's ahead of us. We actually feel pretty good with the things that are visible and transparent in 23 as we see them today. But all these factors that have been noted are all variables. They're all things that are sitting out there that have the potential to take what we see today and wreak havoc tomorrow. So, a lot of things that we're doing now as we build budgets, we're building them for the things that we know we can affect and the things we see today. And we're building 4 or 5 contingency plans behind those so that as things do change, if they do, we're able to react quickly and nimbly.
That's great. But Rob and Vineet, I promise I'll get to the other guys in just 1 second. My biggest concern is that people are traveling and they've been traveling great, but I'm curious if you think that what we experienced over the last summer, at least when it came to the leisure component, is more of a one and done, or have we stepped over into a new era where travel is really what people want over materialistic things and they're willing to pay that extra premium for it? Vineet, do you have a thought on that?
Absolutely. Listen, this is what we have learned in the last 12 plus months. People are tired of sitting home, and not only from a business perspective that they are now traveling. Yep. Leisure component is exploding, and I think it's there to stay, which is the biggest asset that we can keep. I mean, it's a great news for us. Weekends, weekdays, a lot of leisure travel is coming.
Right. I agree. The only thing I disagree is that people are calling it bleisure. I can't stand that word, but I do think that this is the way that people want to live. And particularly as the workforce changes and we see more Gen Z people in the workplace and more of those younger millennials when they start to reach positions of power in particular, what I think is they live their lives very differently. They want to interact with people in the neighborhood. They want to have those experiences out there. In our day, it was a lot of you go, you sit in a conference room, you go home. That's not good enough for people anymore. Rob, are you sensing that same thing, that this is really a societal shift, at least here domestically?
Glenn, it's funny because you and I have had this conversation, 4 times now over a 1.5 year period. And we keep saying, is it sustainable? Is it going to stop? And we don't see it yet. Our group pace is off the charts in the first quarter of next year, and our leisure pace is ahead of 2018 going into 2019. So what we can see today is that it is a new normal, and I think it'll continue. I think the demand will continue to be there as long as the customers have the disposable income, and as long as we don't go from inflation to an impactful recessionary time. I think that's the one area that we have to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Dennis, let me bring this to you, and JP, I'll get to you real quick next. I'm curious, when you're thinking about procurement and stuff like that, because there's much more of an emphasis now on leisure or combining it with business, and groups are behaving a little bit differently. Are you seeing the products that go into properties start to reflect those changes?
Yeah, I think the shift in mix made everyone to completely rethink the value proposition to the guest and the expectation of the guest. That is shifting. And, we had to rethink everything from the ground up in terms of what do people care about, what do they expect, and what they no longer want. And that really focuses the procurement on what really drives value. You either, for all of the non-value added products and services, you either eliminate, automate, or outsource. And so we essentially been really focusing the procurement effort on identifying what really is going to drive value in the next 2 to 3 years, and really focusing on those aspects of the guest experience.
Yeah, and we're going to get to your
to
audience
make sure that we can stay ahead of the trend.
Yeah, we'll get into audience questions in just 1 minute. But Dennis, I got to ask you, so give us an example of one thing that's changed that people really want, and one thing that customers are saying, we're done with that.
A good example would be minibars. Mm-hmm. As you start thinking about what a luxury a traveler and guest actually expects to see in their guest rooms, I think there's a shift in thinking around, are minibars really needed and expected within a hotel room and a luxury operation? Mm-hmm. And we've been thinking about it long and hard, because I think we much rather offer that guest an exceptional, food and beverage offer, or at their whim and for the convenience, as opposed to for them reaching out for that $7 Kit Kat or Mars bar in a minibar. So that will be a good example of that. Heavy delivery experiences around travel within the hotel or outside of the hotel is also a big component. Those auxiliary services around spa, around experiences within the neighborhood, making sure that our food and beverage outlets are destinations, not just for these people staying within the hotel, but are being recognized as the restaurant of choice or the bar of choice within their local communities is really essential. The focus moving forward. Yeah.
Right. I think that's really essential. And I think I've already mentioned it already once, and it's something that's a common theme, is you really need to be a meaningful part of that community. And that means creating programming that's going to bring people in, like you just mentioned, Dennis. And it also means that the executives in the hotel finding ways to connect better with other influencers, either social media influencers, political influencers, community leaders, that sort of thing. JP, I want to bring you into the conversation. Sorry to make you wait so long over here, but you guys are
Go ahead, Glenn, shoot.
You guys really focused on that construction pipeline. I've been following the stories that you've been putting out and seeing how that's going. But I'm curious as to where you think we're going from here. I think that since the Great Recession that started in 2008-ish, give or take a couple of days, we got drunk on low interest rates. It spurred a lot of development. It created a lot of things that might not necessarily have happened. And in some instances, I'm not an economist, but kind of set up the stage for where we are today with all of this inflation. Now that the Fed is getting serious, and I think they have a target of 4.8%, or what you guys would call 480 basis points by the time it's all over here. How is that really affecting? Is it in the new construction pipeline, and what can we expect?
What it's really doing, Glenn, with the increase in interest rates that we have seen, it's really causing developers to pause, sit back, a wait and see attitude.
Yep.
And one example of that right now is that there are about 985 hotels that are under construction in the United States right now. Prior to COVID, we were well into 1,000 under construction.
Right.
One of the stages of the pipeline. We have about 4,350 hotels that are either going to start in the next 12 months or in early planning. The progression of the pipeline moving from early planning to start in the next 12 months to under construction to ultimately open is slowed.
Yep.
Coming to what I talked about a minute ago, the wait and see attitude. Okay. Supply chain issues are also a problem there. Can't find the products that you need as fast as you need them on a, call it a just-in-time basis to move them into the hotels.
Right.
So with interest rate increases, with supply chain issues, the movement of projects through the pipeline isn't going as fast as what it did pre-COVID. However,
right.
What I will say is the pipeline still has over 5,300 projects in it.
Yes, but if you take out extended stay, there's 4 projects, right?
No.
But it does account for something like a third of the overall pipeline when you're including early planning, right?
Yeah, I'll go on about extended stay later, but 5,320 projects in the pipeline right now. That is just a few hundred from the all-time high.
Wow, so, that really gives us some really good perspective right there.
Absolutely. So
interesting. But you also, I bet, will contend that renovations are picking up. So for companies out there, they have a lot of opportunity to, like I'm thinking vendors selling into the industry, for example, they still have a lot of opportunity. It just may be different opportunities.
100% right. The renovation and conversion pipeline right now is as high as it's been in as far as we've been covering it, Glenn.
Wow.
Going back many, many, many years. Okay. There are about 1,900 projects in the renovation and conversion pipeline right now in the United States, and about 240,000 rooms. There is a lot of activity going on with renovations and conversions. And when I talk about renovations, I'm not talking about small renovations. I'm talking solid 7-figure renovations. So if an owner's going in, he's changing out hair dryers in the bathroom, I'm not covering that. But if he's doing a solid renovation to the guest rooms, the public spaces, meetings places, F&B, revenue places, there's a ton of that going on right now. And what I always say when people come talk to me and they say, well, what should we do? I always say, if you're a supplier in the hotel business and you're looking to find an owner that will be open to talking to you about your products and possibly making a change, the best time to do that is when there's a renovation going on, or he is planning a renovation, or he's converting from one brand to another brand to an independent to a brand, because that's when an owner is most open to talking about changing what's currently on his site right now.
Yeah, and Vineet,
that's where all the money's on the table too.
Yeah, right, sure. Now, Vineet, I saw you nodding when we started this portion of the conversation. I'm going to guess that you're thinking more about renovations than new build generally.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the key thing here is, we got these maturity dates with a great interest rate currently that are 3 to 5 years out. Mm-hmm. So what the owners want to do is they want to have those renovations done, completed before the maturity date comes in, whether it's 3 years, 4 years. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen is, because the interest rates goes up, and then it's going to either get refinanced or bridge loan or whatever those loans are out there. I just think that's why. And not only that, the pressure from the brand, they've been sitting and giving waivers for the last 2-3 years, and those milestones are about to expire, or they, in 2 years to be competitive, you have to do it. So it's hitting at the same time, with you have to have all these renovations done in larger properties, primarily.
Right. Damien, how does that affect your business in general when people are going out looking for procurement services for renovations versus new builds versus just daily stuff?
Well, we support all three of them, Glenn. So it doesn't affect our business too much. Or, we will support hotels in their daily operations, or we will support them if they have renovations or if they want to go through new builds. So to be completely candid, it doesn't impact us too much.
That's cool. Are you seeing, but do you have to put different resources in different places as that kind of shifts around?
Yes, of course. We have dedicated teams that would support the day-to-day to source food or to source non-food or to support on project sourcing. Absolutely, it's not just we have different experts helping on all three topics.
Cool. Let's go to some of the audience questions that we hear right now. We got one question that's saying, "Hey, with so much focus on wellness, what are some of the ways we think hotels will address wellness?" And my personal opinion is I hope it goes more than just a bottle of water. Now, this person says, obviously, I'm focused on the healthiness of the snacks in the lobby shops, but wanted to understand what other developments we expect the wellness trend to bring. Dennis, let me go to this one. For you. All right. So curious as to how you're thinking about this, because I think wellness is a lot about creating the right environment as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's been a lot of conversations within our guest experience team as far as what do we define wellness as moving forward. And I think at the end of the day, it's trending towards meeting the customer where they want to essentially be from the custom solution that they're expecting. So it's whether or not we are partnering with yoga instructors that are able to provide that as a service, whether or not we are offering bespoke spa services, depending on customer preferences before they arrive in our hotels, at request training sessions within the gyms and really reinventing what the gym looks like. But it's really around understanding what the customer needs are and making sure that we are staying ahead of that curve. There isn't a single, solution, I think, to address that.
Right. And what my wellness is different than what your wellness is, which would be different than Rob's wellness is. Rob, that's my hint that I'm coming to you next. What are you thinking about, being that you're running this, full service portfolio? How are you considering wellness from what are the guests looking for these days? And what does it really mean to your operations?
Glenn, wellness programs are really table stakes in our resort operations these days. Folks, during the COVID period, went through a period where they stayed at home and gained weight and then went through a huge wellness program on their own at home. And now when they travel, they want to enjoy, they want to do all the best things they can, but they also want to make sure they don't fall off those programs. So we make sure as part of our resort fees that we include things like sunrise Tai Chi and pool aerobics and things that they won't typically do as a form of wellness at home, so that it's new things that they're learning. It's not only wellness, but it's enrichment, and it just helps the overall satisfaction of the guest stay.
Interesting. JP, I know this is a little off your what you're doing, but how is that reflecting in the way people are renovating hotels these days or building new hotels? Maybe they've got different facilities. I don't know.
Well, they're renovating hotels with those concepts in mind, right? And allocating the appropriate spaces through renovation to allow a lot of that wellness activity to take place. The other thing that we've seen too, Glenn, is also that there's been a plethora of new brands that have been announced into the industry over the past 5 years. 100 new brands announced into the industry in the past 5 years. Some of them are new construction brands, some of them are conversion brands, but the industry has really segmented itself into collection brands, lifestyle brands, which are somewhat synonymous with wellness, right? Mm-hmm. Extended stay, and I can go on and on. But I think it's here. I think it's here to stay, and I think the hotels and the brands are going to do it based on what their focus groups say that they want, renovation or whether that be new construction.
Vineet, I guess there's also a doubling down on this category as we talked about that leisure element becomes more prominent, right? With more time spent at the hotel on that leisure side, it's my hunch that they're going to be looking for more of these types of options and opportunities.
Yeah, and I want to start by saying wellness, like you said, it's different, but we cannot go past the cleanliness component starting point of wellness. That's what we learned in last 2.5 years is, we cannot go out of the box unless the hotels are clean. That's the number one thing that we cannot forget with all the stuff that has happened. Now, doubling down, you have to be competitive, you have to do out of the box what the customer needs and wants are. And it changes month to month, day to day. But as of right now, we're talking about we have to make sure that instead of we can't rebuild hotels once it's built, but we can change the way the behavior, the menus, there's so many things that are in our control that we can really do.
Right. One of the things that I like, for example, is lighting that changes to follow your circadian rhythms throughout the day. That's something that you don't need to rebuild your building for. You could just add that as an element to the room. Clean, fresh air, for example, seeing is becoming more important. Access to free bottled water or machines that put out that kind of water is also really important, I think. Damien, we got another question, and I think this one would be good for you to start with. When considering best value, are hotels looking to utilize a vendor's direct hotel brand program or looking more to align with the same vendor GPO program like you guys? This individual is seeing a lot of overlap with duplicate programs. Is there a preference? And I guess each person's preference would be different, right?
Yeah, let me start. If you don't mind, let me start just before I jump to this on the wellness part. There's one part we need to talk about, which is
throw it in, baby.
I think it's relevant because it addresses wellness and it can also help, I think, on the cost side. And when the way we design the menus, the way we think about what we want to put on the plates, there's something that is quite intriguing, all of us, which is a plant-based. But plant-based, you put more vegetable on the plate, you reduce a little bit, the meat portions, you reduce the meat-laced portion. It's doing a lot for the wellness of the people. It's also doing a lot to improve, the cost base. Yep. And there's a way to think about how we want to go towards a plant-based. We think about it lately. Everything that we've been talking about is how we're going to prepare the meats, whether it's smoking, broil. I wrote it doing because so many of them. It's smoking, broiling, grilling, roasting, and et cetera, et cetera. Right. You can do the same thing with vegetable, get an amazing outcome, and you're doing a good service to your clients, and you're doing a good service to your P&L. Save on that side too, something that, and maybe you can hear it in my accent. I wasn't born and raised. So
I thought you're from Brooklyn, dude.
I live in Brooklyn, mate, but I wasn't born there. But and so, dear American friends, take that as you want. But I think the U.S. could probably use a little bit of portion control, and there's probably a time right now to think about portion reduction, being reasonable in portion, and doing that because you're helping out your clients, you're helping out their wellness, and you're helping out your P&L. It's good for them. It's good for you.
Damien, you make a great point there. This is an interesting statistics. Portion sizes have more than doubled in my lifetime. So people used to eat something this big. Now it's like that big over there. And we've kind of lost perspective as to what is actually appropriate. And to add another thing, I do think vegetarianism and veganism is really starting to hit the mainstream in a real meaningful way. And that's going to mean hotels are going to have to get out from just having salads and a side of broccoli into creating stuff that makes vegetarian food awesome. So I love Indian food. They've got some of the best vegetarian food, and you don't feel like you're missing out on something. I'm going to be at Resorts World at the end of the month, and they're getting a vegan restaurant over there, the first on the Strip. I'm excited to give that a try, for example.
Glenn, you're so right. I just want to use a personal, I have two kids and they're fairly young, 5 and 10 years old. So I don't know about you guys having teenagers, 10 years old. Have you ever had more than 10 kids together lately without having one person who doesn't eat this or doesn't eat that or doesn't eat this, is 100% vegan? I'm talking about 10-year-olds, right? Right. If you have young adults coming in, and we've all talked, and Dennis, rightfully you said about making a destination where people want to come in. If you want to be a destination, any group of 5 or more people that comes in, one of them is going to be a vegan, and you've got to be able to address that. So, Glenn, I just wanted to make that point.
No, I think it's great. Let's get back to that other topic, but I want to follow this because this is what happens. You get on something interesting and you want to follow it along. And you're absolutely right, because I see this in restaurants all the time, particularly amongst younger people. You go out with a group of friends and you always have that vegetarian friend, and always it feels as if someone has to make a compromise. Either the person who's not going to eat what they've grown accustomed to, or everyone else has to kind of go along with that. Dennis, when it comes to procurement, how are you seeing our movement towards moving away from meat affecting what you're doing and how hoteliers are presenting their products?
I don't think it's moving away from meat. You still have to make sure you provide the same amount of selection and experience for the meat eaters.
So you're almost having to double your menu.
Right. You do, though, however, need to find opportunities to really elevate the vegetarian side of things and make sure that you reflect that in the menus. And there are cuisines where, you know, Indian cuisine was mentioned, where this has been done for centuries. Yeah. Middle Eastern cuisine is extremely rich in that as well, where, yes, you know, they have a great balance of vegetarian food and food that has meat component to it. But it goes well beyond just the meat and non-meat. We also see a big shift in this whole idea that people no longer want to consume alcohol, but they still want to have that cocktail culture. Yes. So there's amazing companies out there now that essentially are creating not fake mocktails, but a cocktail that has no alcohol content, but tastes exactly like a Negroni, or it tastes exactly like an Aperol Spritz. And you do need to essentially provide both options in order for you to create that destination experience and be that, you know, allocation of choice for these groups.
Yeah, I mean, it's come a long way since I was a kid and I'd be able to have a Shirley Temple. Now there's like real cocktails without alcohol in it. But Damien, let me get back to you with what the primary question was before we went down this particular path. Of course, we're talking about GPO programs like yours in Integra. Are you seeing an overlap in duplicate programs that are out there, and how are hoteliers really utilizing these services?
Well, listen, yes, you know, whether a hotel is with a GPO or not, the odds are they're buying the products. Now, I will tell you, I'll just throw one number out there. I think it'll make probably the point, you know, our buying power globally is 36 billion. So I'll venture to say it's probably, you know, all of the spends accumulated of the other folks on the call today, right? So the odds are we've got better program. We've just got a better program, but not only do we have a better program, we might even have a better relationship with the manufacturers because our relationship is holistic. We don't just buy what a hotel needs. We have hotel clients, we have restaurant clients, we have senior home clients, we have corporate clients, we have hospital clients, school clients, university clients, you name it. And so we have holistic relationships with the manufacturers. And we're also spending a lot of time, focus, energy, and money in making sure we bring a lot of value to the manufacturers. We've, you know, over the last 24 months, invested a lot in providing visibility, providing services, providing data to the manufacturers. So our relationship with the manufacturers is, you know, we spend a lot of time. That's what we do for a living. Right. So the other thing I want to say is I don't know about the others, Glenn. I'll talk about Integra. That's the company I know. Yep. We're flexible in the way we go to the market. We don't believe, and that's a decision, strategic decision we made. We're not rigid and we're not prescriptive. If we have a great deal and you want to participate, you're, you know, more than welcome. Come on, participate. If you have your own deal, you have your own, you know, historical relationship with a manufacturer, you just go and you just do your own thing, and that's fine. We're not being prescriptive. We're being flexible, and I think one of the reasons for that, and maybe we can talk about that later, because once you get me started, I could go on for the rest of the hour.
That's all right. I have to work less. That sounds good by me. The strategic decisions we've made, and that's perhaps because we don't think of ourselves as purely a GPO. We think of ourselves as a performance improvement company. We want to help our clients on different dimensions. Procurement is obviously one of them, but there are many others. So for that reason, we don't make all our revenue and income purely on procurement. And so we've made a decision to be very flexible. Well, you made mention that you work with manufacturers all the time. So it got me thinking, before the COVID crisis and stuff, there was a lot of talk about how things were being made as it appeals to sustainability. It's not just something that's on the property level. It's really going back to how those things are made. Are people still thinking about that and considering it?
Well, if the question is for me, then I think the same way we talked about wellness, I don't think that sustainability is a trend. It's a thing. I think Rob, you said, you used the word, or JP, you said it's here to stay. Sustainability is here to stay. I mean, there's no way that it's going away. And every large company, large, small, medium company has, you know, a CSR plan, or should have a CSR plan of how they're going to embrace sustainability. And for hotels, it's probably, and I'm going to miss some. I'm going to go out on a limb here, but it's probably six topics. You've brought the greenhouse gas emission, whether it's scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, and what that means, I'm sure everyone is aware, but it's what you directly control, what you indirectly control, and what your manufacturers do and their responsibility, because you are responsible for what you manufacturers produce in terms of greenhouse gas emission, because you're making the choice to work with them or not. So, of course, that's one. The other obvious point is amenities and every single-use container, and that, you know, Glenn, I walked into the hotel I'm staying at right now, walked into the bathroom. The first thing I looked for was, is this hotel, you know, socially responsible? Are they using, you know, single-use plastic or not?
Right.
Turns out they were. It's no one on this panel, so it's okay. But it turns out they were, and I was an unhappy customer because of this. I think the third topic is food waste reduction. We talked about the portion control, as we could also talk about cross-utilization, better planning of menus and recipes, better training of the labor to make sure you're reducing food waste. Energy conservation, of course, we talked about plant-based, and the last but certainly not least, and I think Dennis, you alluded to this, it's local and ethical sourcing. I think as a lot of our client, I think, will expect us to be able to be part of our communities more and more and to source locally, which is something as Integra that we do also a lot. So
wow.
I hope that addresses your question.
I'm impressed by that you're able to drill down to that particular level, because people are much more interested in that. And not only is local food typically better, but it does fall into that sustainable category. And I know a lot of companies that are working with local farmers in order to produce as much of that as possible. Dennis, how are you seeing that? And how is it being expressed with the hotels and the communities that your hotels are in?
Well, our chefs are incredibly passionate about creating sustainable options for our guests. We have beehives in our hotels that essentially are there to make sure that we can pollinate the crops, and we also create honey. Nearly every single resort that we operate have a garden where they grow their own produce. There are efforts to source a certain amount of products within a particular radius to make sure that you can provide that local experience. But again, the trend towards guests is that sustainability is expected. And so I think if the hospitality industry doesn't adapt, at some point that will be the death nail in our existence, because hotels that don't adapt, that do not care about carbon, do not care about single-use plastics, do not care about the impact that they have on the environment, they will not be chosen as the destinations of the future. And the differentiation really does happen today. It's the investment that you make today that's going to really dictate your existence tomorrow. We have efforts not only to look at the sustainability piece, but also supplier diversity piece, because what we've noticed is that goes hand in hand. As much as we care about the local small producers, we also make sure that we provide opportunity to groups that were historically disadvantaged in participating in the economy, to make sure they have a fair chance, and we support them in those efforts.
That's a great point. Rob, how do you bring programs like that to life? Do you have any specific rules or policies around that? Because you want to help out some of these disenfranchised communities, but at the same time, a particular product or service might not be available by those specific types of people in that particular area. I know it's a little clunky wording, but I think you understand what I'm trying to get at.
No, I get where you're asking, Glenn. And, sustainability over the, lifetime of my career has changed from, really a PR catchword to a necessity. And I think as we see inflation and we see rising costs, people that didn't pay attention to sustainability in the past are now seeing that sustainability is also part of the evolution of our margin. And if you don't have sustainability within the groups, the various groups around you, you're not going to have competitiveness. You're not going to have that local flavor that I heard someone mention. So it is important that you're able to spread it around. One of the problems that I saw early on in group purchasing was that we often went to the big companies to buy things, and the smaller companies started to get squeezed out. We make sure at Aimbridge that we have a very easy process through our market basket, so that we buy as much as we can within the local community, and we make it as easy as possible. The vendor themselves goes in and signs into our program and becomes a part of it, so that our folks on the property can continue within our volume buying, but to include those local vendors so that they're not by the wayside.
Interesting. Vineet, how do you go about that, in the sense that how do you understand what's out there within a community? Because if you don't know what you don't know, you can't really make those important relationships.
Glenn, it's a great question. And I'm sorry, I thought it was to me, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right, let's go to Vineet, then you can follow up.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I echo Rob, but the quality is the most important, and that's why I think it's, no matter how big the organization is, you got to keep quality in mind. Number one, number two. That's why Damien, and GPOs. I mean, they have a great relationship set up, and I think that one of the things that you do is you call a big, vendor and say who is already producing for you, and it meets the certain standards. I think that's the key thing. You can't just walk from your hotel and say across the street, hey, give me some this, give me some that. I think there has to be some guidelines which is set, but the important quality is the most important, that in our mind.
Right. Rob, how about you?
No, I was just going to add, Glenn, that, first of all, you have to trust your team, right? They're the one that's in the community. They're the ones that are connected and know where these vendors are and what they want. But more importantly, our guests today wanted to be a part of the story of their guest experience. They love to hear about where the food is sourced and why it's different from when they're eating back home. And also they love to hear the sustainable aspects of their stay. It makes them feel good about where they purchased to stay for the night. So I think it all ties in to the product that we provide.
And Glenn, I just want to react to this if I can, just build on this. It's really important because when people think about, GPOs, group purchasing organization, they think about scale, but they think about scale at a national level. We Integra, we don't think about that, about scale that way. Of course, we have that too, right? Because of the 36 billion that I mentioned. But actually, we work with, it's about 1,800 prime vendors, national vendors. We work with about 4,000 or 5,000 local vendors because the way we think about scale is local scale. The good news is if you have a property in one area, the odds are, Integra has a dozen more hotel clients, plus schools, plus restaurants, plus senior homes, plus this and that. And so we've recreated locally the network and the ecosystem of manufacturers that you need for your, suppliers that you need for your property. So scale is not just scale at a national level. It is very much at the local level. As a matter of fact, that's where I think it's extremely beneficial for me personally to be part of the Sodexo group, right? I mean, if you think about it, it's Sodexo was rated, number one by the S&P Global Dow Jones Sustainability World Index, and it's the same supply chain. And so whether it's Integra, it's Sodexo, it's the same supply chain, and so that is for me is a tremendous asset that we bring to our clients.
Excellent. I want to talk about technology in a second, but JP, I want to go back to you for a second as we're talking about stuff that's local. When it comes to new construction, are you seeing that hoteliers are trying to head towards local or American manufacturing rather than overseas because the pricing of getting a container from China is like, I don't know, gone up 1,000% or something? Don't quote me on that, but it's a ridiculous amount.
100%, Glenn. A lot of vendors are looking to source locally, not only for FF&E in the hotel, but going back to what we were talking about earlier, into the food and beverage products. As you know, up here in New England, we have a lot of farms. We have a lot of people that produce everything fresh daily.
Yep. A
lot of those farmers reach out to the food and beverage directors in the various hotels, offering their products, get tested, they get tasted, they get rated. And then a lot of those chefs will use a lot of those products and promote those foods on their menu. The other thing that Rob said too is, he largely leaves it up to his team. They're in the community. They're there. They're day to day. They know where the best food is. They know those vendors and those farmers who they need to interact with. So that's a great way of leaving it to them. The other thing that I would say too, a lot of those farmers and a lot of those small food companies in the local area, they'll do a lot of reaching out at the individual hotel level themselves.
Yeah, great. Yes, Damon.
I think Vinny, you mentioned that. I agree with you. There is the notion of quality that's essential, and I'd love to have offline the conversation with you, Rob, because when it comes to food, as we all know, we all think about great things of food. There are also risks associated to food. And, without having the QA associated with knowing where you're getting the food from, does it have the right quality? Does it have the right nutritional standards, et cetera, that you need? I think that's what, scale also can bring. But,
right. Excellent. All right. So we're going to be running out of time real quick, but I want to make sure we address the technology issue. We got a question here. During the last 2 years, what has been the most creative or impactful hotel tech solution platform you've seen implemented in the industry, and why? And then looking forward, what are you excited about? I gotta go to Vineet and Rob on this one again. So Vineet, let's start with you this time.
Well, I mean, it's, there's brands that mobile check-in, how efficient the technology is making us. I think that's the key here. Nobody has time to, we want to check in as soon as we land at the airport. We want to go right past the desk, with our rooms there. I mean, that's what technology has done for us. I mean, we don't want to stop and waste, and we want to go into our rooms. We want to order the special of the day from our room coming down. I mean, I think that's the key here in the hotel industry. And I think all the major brands, they are putting, a lot of resources behind it finally, and to make it easier. That's what COVID has taught us. I mean, just be efficient, right? In, a seconds, you can plan, book, check in, check out, and just be easy.
Right. Rob, he's of course talking about ease for the customer, but what about making operations a little bit more simple to help alleviate that labor cost without taking away from the customer experience? How are you thinking about that?
I went to a Marriott advisory board meeting for the rooms, and it's sort of something more forward thinking than we're sitting in today. But I saw something for the first time that I think is going to really change the way we do business. And they are in the process of testing bedding that is raised up into the ceiling, and it's using RV technology so that you can turn a room from a double to a king. And when the bed rises, it goes right into either a desk or a kitchen table. I was amazed by it. It was incredible, and I think it really is going to change how we use space in the hotel industry. I mean, they were saying that they're saying that they're going to be able to put 30% more rooms into a building based on this technology. And, I think it's things like that I think it's also going to have a residential adaptation, especially in the apartment use. If you look in the hotel, I think in the last couple of years, I think simple things like not having to cable a building for television or TV. If you go behind the walls of some of these buildings and you see the past cables, it's just, something we don't think about, but is incredibly expensive for an owner to recable the building. You'll find Cat 5 and Cat 1 and all kinds of stuff back there. I think things like that is going to make our lives, we're going to be able to adapt to new standards quicker when we can get a hold of technology like that.
Interesting. JP, one of the things when it comes to new constructions, a lot of the prototypes have been shrinking room size to help alleviate construction costs, for example, right? What Rob is talking about, I think, is a great way to keep customers happy while also lowering construction costs. Do you agree with that sentiment?
I do. You mean we're talking with Rob and the beds coming out of the ceiling?
Yeah, and just like changing the way that we perceive how a room is supposed to be set up and structured, Well,
yeah, absolutely. Incidentally, that particular technology is new to me.
I've seen pictures.
Really fantastic. Yeah. But the developers are always looking for new, creative, innovative ways to attract the guests and keep the guests once they get there. What Rob is talking about is really interesting. You think about walking into a guest room and walking into just a living room, and then pressing a button and having your bed come down from the ceiling, or having that done for you at the front desk as soon as you check in. So I'm all for new technology in hotels. I'll admit I'm a little bit old school. I think we have some great technologies right now. I'm a little bit unfamiliar with all of the operational technologies that happen behind the scenes, but one of the things I saw recently was alarm clock, charging my phone right there, and it shot the time right up into the ceiling along with the outside temperature.
That's really cool. But being it was in a hotel room, was it the correct time? Or was it from like 2 time zones over?
Perfect time.
Glenn, one thing I was surprised in terms of technology not seeing too much of is just the use of robotics. And I'll just share one application because Rob just shared a cool example of technology. We actually helped with parent company Sodexo. We've put robots delivering food on campuses.
Yep.
And you think about large, resorts, where you've got to have someone run around just to deliver the food. Robots can do it. There's a very cool factor. Like if the 20-something-year-olds love it, the clients are going to love it. And I'm just eager to find a client that will want to work with us to see if we could deploy it. So this is a call for action to anyone who's listening. If you want to have really cool robots deliver your food it's probably more suited to a bigger resort, but I'd love to test it. I think
it'd be perfect for like where I am right now at the Broadmoor. And I will say, Damien, you are 100% correct. In my unscientific poll, both colleges that my kids attend have those little robots running around delivering food.
There you go.
They're also very popular in assisted living facilities where all of the residents will gather for dining 2 or 3 times a day as well. I've seen those work very well in that particular environment.
So if anyone on the call wants to try and just give us a call, no strings attached, we'll help you. I just want to. I'd like the cool factor of seeing those robots running around.
And I will say, at Resorts World, they have a pet dog that's a robot in the lobby. It's adorable. It's really cool. Dennis, do you want to add to this?
I was just going to say nothing's going to replace a real dog in a lobby. No, I think, look, from a procurement perspective, the one piece that it's absolutely going to be instrumental moving forward is having access to data and insight, and especially from a benchmarking perspective. So, at the brand level, you operate so many different hotels. And yes, they're all unique, but they all deliver the same guest experience.
Yep.
And so, if one property is overspending on proteins relative to all the others, it will be great to understand why. Mm-hmm. And what's behind that. And the fact is that I don't think there's any perfect technology right now that gives that insight at that granular level. There's not just by feeding the data, but also saying sort of ask these questions and what's driving that and that behavior. So that ability to create a bit of a horse race and competition amongst divisions or departments as far as they're trying to get to that operational improvement and efficiency, I think is going to be absolutely game changer, whoever's going to come up with that next.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, one more question before you head to final thoughts. Rob, what are you thinking about when it comes to these tipping apps? Because I'm moving more towards a cashless life, and I feel riddled with guilt if I don't have cash on me.
I'm actually knee deep in a pitch on that, where a company has been pitching me in the last month or so, and I won't go into the company's name, but the biggest pushback we're getting from our staff is, Big Brother knowing that money's coming in. And what we really have to get them to understand is that a tipping app really would be supplemental to cash. And that same customer that uses the tip app, I just used it the other night when leaving a valet. I noticed I didn't have enough money on me to give an adequate tip, and I Venmo'd them right at the door. I thought it was fantastic. We're all for it. We're looking at it heavily right now. Right now, we're looking into a test in a resort program where they'll have a QR code on their name tag, so that we'll be able to give cashless tips right there. We're also looking at an all-inclusive platform where we're going to give the customer a set amount of money that they have to give away while they're at the hotel, and also through a cashless tip program. So, we're all for it. Just bringing up as an operator, the main thing that we're hearing in the field is the staff isn't all for it just yet.
Right. That is interesting to me because, Vineet, I'm coming to you on this one. I was speaking to a hotelier of a major management company in New England, and they said that it's helping them basically raise salaries of employees, and it's making them want to stay around longer instead of going for that housekeeping job down the block for $1. Vineet, are you thinking about this? Do you think there's any positive applications for employee engagement because of it?
I think it's a location specific. It's not one size fits all. I think it's resorts versus you can't do this in a smaller limited service hotels versus where the individual works at the breakfast only and the breakfast is complimentary, versus another fine dining restaurant where, you know, it's expected to give 20+% tip. So it's a different location. We are exploring. We have not done it, but we are absolutely exploring that. You know, this could be a game changer.
Excellent. I like it. All right, we're just about out of time, so I'd love to get some final thoughts from you. Whatever big observations you have or something granular. JP, let's start with you, sir.
I know you're going to start with me. I
don't feel like I've gotten to talk to you enough, so I
know. I'm trying to putting those notes together, Glenn. But I would say, you know, just thinking about what's in front of us in 2023, the headwinds that we have right now. Mm-hmm. My only suggestion is whatever your plan is for 2023, as you begin to put it in writing over the next, 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks, whatever your plan is for 2023, be ready to adjust, be nimble. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to happen in 23. There's going to be a lot of adjustments. There's going to be a lot of changes. We're in a society where there's just a lot of things coming at us from every different direction, and we don't know what's new for 2023 either. So one small piece of advice is whatever your plan is, look at it every month, make the appropriate adjustments that need to be made, and move forward from there.
Excellent. Dennis?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece is move away from the silo approach and make sure you talk to everyone all the time to make sure you understand what their plans are, and stay in tune with that, because to JP's point, things will change all the time, and you need to understand how the decisions that you make today will impact everyone else in the organization and vice versa. So it's really about collaboration and being ready for what's next.
Fantastic. Rob?
The way I look at it, for every challenge, there's a good operator that we have in the field that has a solution. And just making sure that we have the right teams at the property levels, making sure that we have the right environment that people want to continue to work at. We're not going to have staffing shortages when we have places where people want to be and want to grow and can belong and to thrive. And our biggest value is that we think like a guest and we act like an owner. And I think as long as we do that, the last 2.5 years have taught us that we can kind of survive anything.
Excellent. That is so true. And no matter what comes your way, it doesn't affect you like it would have if it happened in 2019, right? Yeah. Vineet, how about you?
I mean, we come from an isolation 2 years ago, and there's a lot of distrust, uncertainty, which uncertainty is still there. We have to build back the trust, not only for our employees, for our, guests, and honestly, employee investment is the most important. That's going to get us through everything. Mm-hmm. Retention, keeping the same, our employees' retention is the most important right now.
Absolutely. And Damien, I'd love to also hear from you besides your final thoughts. We've got a couple of questions here. How do you go about setting your clients up for success? And how are you different than other GPOs?
Oh, Glenn, just before I answer that, let me share. I know in my opening statement, you guys nailed me because I was like all gloom and doom. Let me close by sharing a little bit of hope, though. I will tell you, the one thing I will say is we are facing the headwinds, we are facing the uncertainty, we are facing the inflation. The one thing I'd say to the operators listening today to us is that you're not alone. And I would suggest that you don't go at it alone. And okay, it might sound like I'm preaching from my own choir, but there are organizations like GPOs out there that can help you navigate through those challenges. So if you don't have a relationship with a GPO, now may be the right time, given how complex the situation is from a supply chain perspective. Now might be the right time to go out there and to find the right fit. And if you do have a relationship with a GPO, I'd say make sure that you're getting the full value out of them. Are they helping you from a culinary standpoint? Are they helping you, of course, from a procurement standpoint? Are they helping you from a sustainability standpoint? Are they helping you reduce your food waste, et cetera, et cetera? And if you're not getting all that value, ask yourself if you have the right partner. So I'd say, look, Glenn, it's an easy answer to the question. Everything I just mentioned, we do. We have all of that. We've invested a ton. Again, as I mentioned before, we don't think of ourselves as a GPO. We think of ourselves as a performance improvement. So we work with clients. We look at everywhere that we can be of help, and we address those issues and bring them answers. So
and you do it with lots of integrity. right?
That's special. Listen, my closing word, Glenn, is thank you very much. I think you did a great job facilitating this, and thank you very much.
I really appreciate it, and I love that we got to have this excellent, spirited conversation. I wish we had much more time to do this. I want to thank Damien and, of course, everyone from Integra for making this possible today. And a big shout out to JP, Dennis, Rob, and Vinita. Of course, I'm Glenn Hausman. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time in another HB Hot Topics. Have a great afternoon, everyone.